right, so I'm just gonna ask you a couple of questions.
Yeah.
I first want to start off with a little bit about you and your background. Like, what really inspired you to get into the film industry?
I think as a child I used to love watching movies, and then later when I became interested in acting as a like a teenager, I used to get involved with theatre, and I think I never really thought that I could be an actor in movies because I grew up in a pretty small town. I never really imagined that was possible. So I sort of fantasized about it at a young age, but later when it became a reality, it then became a real goal of mine as an actor to sort of work out how I could go from theatre and find my way into, making movies. And in order to do that, my brother and I started our own company, started making our own stuff, basically. Because you figured if, no one's going to hand it to you, you got to go get it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. What has been your favorite role so far in your career to play? You have a pretty extensive
Yeah, I mean, I love every character that I play, especially now that I have been working for a long time and have somewhat established myself. The opportunities become a bit more rich and interesting. I mean, so, I love making the movie Warrior, and then at the same time I had real fun playing a character like Tom Buchanan in The Great Gatsby. Mm-hmm. So they're all fun, and they all have their own challenges and their own interesting sort of parts. I mean, I really love playing the character of Gordo in this, and the real challenge there was trying to kind of bring an element of oddness or weirdness to the character, but not so much so that you wouldn't believe this couple would invite them to the house, at least. So, I love all of them.
Yeah, the character, you can tell it's just like you want to be his friend. Like it just for me watching it, I was just like, man, I really want to be his friend. Like
Gordo's friend.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
He was a little socially awkward, but you knew that there was something behind. For me, I guess I knew that there was something going on that I was just like, he just really wants a friend.
He needs a friend.
He needed that friend.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely. Where did the idea come from for the movie The Gift?
I don't know exactly when the moment hit me, but I remember having this sort of clear idea about wanting to make a movie that sort of dealt with bullying in a way, but it was more the idea of a guy running into the person that he bullied 25 years, after high school. So he's bullied this kid in high school, and 25 years later runs into him in a place where he's seemingly very successful and life is quite good. And I thought it was a very kind of interesting place to start, telling a story from.
Yeah, in the beginning, there was no type, you just did not know where the movie was going. Gordo came out of nowhere, and you just kind of want to know, how does he remember, because it was just, the way that you introduced both characters, it was just kind of this out of nowhere, and he's like, I know you, and you can tell that there was just something that's going to happen, but you just I had no idea what was.
I'm glad, yeah. And the idea that 25 years or 20 years, because that's how, I said it that far after high school, because that's literally, I'm 20 years out of high school. And the idea that some people just, as Jason says, some people are exactly the same. Some people have changed so much. Mm-hmm. And would you recognize them? If someone came and tapped you on the shoulder 20 years after high school, it's like, hey, remember me? Mm-hmm. There's something about you I remember, but, you're so different. And this difficult game that Jason's character plays for the whole movie, which is, his first lie really is to say, I hardly remember the guy. Mm-hmm. And then watching him, if you watch the movie again, you'll just see how often he has to readjust his lie.
Yeah, because in the beginning you don't feel that he really remembers him. It gives you that kind of he's like, I don't recall. Yeah. But then as it goes on, it grows into the story of seeing okay, no, there is a backstory. But you just don't know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
How was it working with the actors on set with the movie? How did you come up with having them play the roles?
Well, Jason was interesting because he's not the obvious choice for it. Not, Jason's usual playground is comedy.
Mm-hmm.
But I also knew I wanted an actor who the audience would have a familiarity with, that they really liked, so that he could enter the film in the beginning as someone would like, we like this guy. He's like a good guy, and we're used to sort of enjoying him, and we trust him.
Mm-hmm.
And then allowing that to turn. And the cool thing about having Jason was that he's someone that would make that turn surprising. And as a usually comic actor, it was great to sort of watch him play a drama so well.
Mm-hmm.
So there was lots of cool, exciting things about having him. With Rebecca, she's such a kind of honest, beautiful person, incredibly intelligent and versatile actress, that I needed someone like her at the center of the movie that we would just love and trust,
Yeah.
And so she was sort of perfect for that.
And I love that about her in the role. Like I said, she wanted to be Gordo's friend. Like, she just wanted to be there for him. Yeah, and she's someone that if you read between the lines, or even that she says it a couple of times, intimates that she at school was someone that now she's developed into this successful woman, but her time at school wasn't as great, so she can relate to a guy like Gordo. Mm-hmm.
Like, she wasn't the popular kid at school.
Right.
But I had just on a production level, I had a wonderful time with both of them, because they're both like very serious actors. Like, they take their job very seriously. And I needed that as a first-time director, two people who were willing just to be like hanging around, waiting on set, ready to work, rather than like, bringing their personal life and crazy shit on the set. So, and Jason had made 2 movies, or has made 2 movies.
Okay.
He directed Bad Words, and he's directed another one which will come out later this year. And because of that, he was such a great partner in crime, because he really understood the filmmaking process and what I was going through, and he was very supportive.
Did you have any inspiration from other directors for this project that you worked
on? Like, as an actor, you get to kind of like, I was joking with a friend of mine who's a director. I said, as a director, you've hardly seen anyone else direct a movie. Like, he's visited a couple of friends make movies on set. But I said, I get to go every time I go to work as an actor. Yeah. I spend the entire movie watching a guy or a woman direct the movie.
Right.
So I get to cherry pick the qualities and the ideas of all these different people, and you really start to learn what things work for you as an actor, and therefore how, if you ever got to be a director, how you would approach it. So you pick little things from people, like watching how incredibly self-assured, thorough and well-prepared someone like Ridley Scott is, seeing how someone like Scott Cooper really trusts his actors and lets them, let them fly, because he's an actor that's come to become a director. And there's so many interesting qualities that directors can bring to the equation, and I get to watch all of them, take notes.
Yeah. Are there any future projects that you're working on? Now that, of course we have this still going until the release date.
I have a couple of movies releasing this year. Black Mass, this movie that I made with Scott Cooper, Johnny Depp is in. And I'm going to shoot another movie with Jeff Nichols, the guy who made Mud. He and I made a movie last year, Midnight Special, which is coming out in, I think, this year or early next year. And so he and I he and I are working on that in September. He's directing and I'll be acting. It's about the movie is called the Loving Project. It's about the civil rights case that became the Supreme Court ruling that it was no longer illegal for people to have interracial marriage in the United States, which has a lot of obvious resonance right now with gay marriage.
Definitely.
So I'm very excited about that. We'll start that soon. Okay. And then, I'll set my sights on directing something else when the time is right, maybe next year.
Nice.
Yeah.
What was your favorite scene to film for The Gift?
Ooh. There's one of the most exciting ones for me was filming this sort of big kind of argument scene with Jason and Rebecca in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. Just because it was such a kind of a big, long dialogue scene, and I didn't have to be an actor. I could just sit and watch.
Yeah.
But I could watch these two really great actors sort of go at it in the kitchen, like really, you know, and elevate the script that I'd written to kind of breathe this life into it, that it made me feel very privileged, you know, to be doing what I was doing. Yeah. I remember having a moment where I was like, this is one of the great days I've ever had on set.
Awesome. Yeah, that scene that's kind of where you kind of see both parts. Just, she was just realizing that Jason wasn't the man that she married. Like,
watching him backed into a corner was really great too. And just his, you know, and again in that scene, he lashes out at her, you know, turns it on her, saying about all the, you know, is what she really wishes for is all the girls that would need her at school to come and say sorry. And I don't know, I just love the scene. I think they did such a great job of it, and I felt very lucky. Yeah,
it was a great scene just because, like I said, you were able, as a viewer, I was able to see that she was just like, this is not the man. You know, like as a woman, like, you kind of like think that the man you're with is, you know, everything about him, and then later on in their marriage, she's saying, this is not who I thought he was, and this high school personality is really just who he is as an adult as
well, this idea of like, do we change as people, and at what age are we sort of set in the ways that we've become through life? But one of the big things in the movie for us, you know, for me writing it, for us making it, was, you know, how well do we know the people that we spend our time with? You know, particularly our partners, our husbands and wives, or our girlfriends and boyfriends. Our partners, like, what do we know of them, and what do we not know of them before we met them? Do we have a right to know that stuff? Right. And how would it affect our present judgment of them? Right. And that was such a big engine for us with the movie, you know.
Yeah, that I really like that aspect of it because you think at a certain age everybody would be a certain type of way. You know, he was successful and, you know, he's great on with his life, but then you see that he's the same person he was 20 years ago.
Yeah. And I personally believe that everybody has the ability to change. They have to work at it though.
Right.
But, you know, the idea that a leopard doesn't change its flies, or, you know, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, is so true with a lot of people.
Yeah. The scene with Gordo, when he goes to see Gordo and find to apologize, like, it was disappointing just as a viewer. Like, you wanted him to apologize so bad and really sincerely be sorry for everything that he caused for Gordo to, you know, end up the way he did and whatnot. Yeah. And it just flipped. And I mean, I know it happens. It was just, for me, I was just like, man, like, why couldn't you just change? Like, I was so optimistic, and I always want to see the greater in people. And I was hoping that he would finally see that you really played an impact on somebody else's life, even though so many years have passed.
Yeah.
But that scene, I think, was really powerful, too.
His inability to look back and acknowledge, And this is the difference between those two characters for me. Rebecca represents that person in life who sees that there's no responsibility for them to look back and to acknowledge. And yet she has the opinion of, wouldn't it be a good thing? Just wouldn't it be a nice thing for you to do, to acknowledge the part you played in his life, you know? And Jason's character represents that, you know, that very kind of almost Western ideology too, of you just keep looking forward, you keep steamrolling ahead, you don't look back, and you don't show the weakness of apology. Yeah. And, you know, the movie's a genre movie. It's a cautionary tale and all that stuff, so it's not like an essay on bullying, but his character has something terrible waiting for him as a result. Yeah. You know, he's going to have his own life, this man.
It shows how the universe works. All of that energy in the universe, and like, he had everything lined up for him, and then, you know, it just hit you because at some point you were going to get back what
Yeah, and also I really believe that the movie's not like, you know, a movie where a guy's like looking for revenge from the moment he sets foot into their lives. It's more a case of he's sitting there going, has this guy changed? And if he hasn't changed, then that kind of old, you know, testament revenge is coming for him.
Yeah, definitely. What advice do you have for our Latino Scoop fans that want to pursue a career in the industry? I mean, because you've been from acting, directing, writing. What do you think?
Well, you know, I always say to anybody who has an interest in filmmaking, whether it be acting, writing, or directing, is to just get started. And that's sort of advice, I think, for anything. If you want to be a painter, you can't call yourself a painter until you pick up a paintbrush. Mm-hmm. You can't call yourself a writer until you pick up a pen or open your laptop. And you know, and the beautiful thing about where we are now with technology, in particular, and information is that we have access to so many things at a very affordable price, right. And in that regard, if anyone is out there interested in making content, you know, TV or film or internet content, you know, story is more important than image. And if you have a good idea for a story or a good idea to tell a story, there's so many ways you can do it, and you could put it on the internet and you could share it with the world like so instantly.
Yeah.
that my advice is almost there's no excuse but to get started.
Right. What should Latino fans look forward to when they go see The Gift on August 7th?
Well, I think that they'd be in for a really kind of thrilling, suspenseful ride, you know, but with something also to take away in terms of, you know, a reflection on the things that we just talked about. Okay. You know, these ideas of, do we know the people that we're with? Do we really know them as well as we think? And to really reflect on our nature and what roles we played in high school.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, this is Joel Edgerton. I want to shout out to LatinoScoop.com. Hey, guys.
Thank you.